and helping all of us be able to cope with this journey called life. But my co-host today, Donald L. Dowdridge, you may not know this, but he was the first African American manager for the United States Postal Service. Mm-hmm. Donald, what state was that in?
That was here in Tampa, and if I
Oh,
can make correct, because we got smartphones now, so they can go back and look. So I was the first,
absolutely.
I was the first African American manager, male, of the
Okay.
of the OCR BCS session within or department within the United States Post Office, the main branch here in Tampa, Florida, at the airport. Um, it was an experience, and it was a blessing, to step
Okay.
up. As a matter of fact, when I was hired at the post office on March 16th, 1985, um, I was excited. I had not too long, maybe about a year or so, I had not too long got out the military. So it was an honor. And if I could tell you even more of a backdrop, believe it or not, I wanted to go to the post office, but I can honestly say this now that I wanted to go to the post office because I knew, that would help me get back on, get on my feet. They paid
Yeah.
good money, and there was opportunity there. And I went in with the dream of becoming the first black postmaster of Hillsborough County. So once I got it, and really I didn't know anything about the postmaster, but once I got into post office and I started researching and what have you, and then I found out there was a position called postmaster general of of Hillsborough County, or if you will. And that was a dream that I had, but God had another dream, another mission for me. But yeah, I spent 11 and a half years at the United States Post Office before retiring at the age of 39.
Well, listen, I've heard you use the term dream 3 times. And so we're going to do your introductory bio a little differently since this is such a natural platform for you. U.S. Postal Service, you're there. 1993, no, 1992. What was the name of the company you created?
Well, in 1992, it was Donald D. Productions at the time. And I got with a young man. You might know him, you might not know him, but I'm going to blast his name. His name is Mr. Mentor Dale Green. And
Know him well.
yes, and he pulled me to the side, and he started pouring into me, and he said, "Look, you're gonna die one day, right?" And I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, I said that because you want your business to outlast you, and the only way that it's going to outlast you, you have to be unique in naming your business." He said, "I noticed that your name is Donald Lee Dowdridge. Though those are some unique initials if you turn it into an acronym." So I'm
Yes.
like, okay, all right. So him and forgive me, I forget the other gentleman's name. I see him just as bright as day. And I mean, they set me down in West Tampa, over there on Main Street. And after maybe about 2 or 3 hours, they came up with determine, learn, develop. And
All
I
right.
said, wow, I like that. So he said, I guarantee you, after you are gone, that the DLD, determine, learn, develop, will outlast the Donald Lee Dowdridge. I said, I never thought of it. And it's amazing because now how the brand, it's almost like, if I may, people know Beyonce by her first name. People know Obama by his first name. So now I notice that when in my travels or when I get calls or whatever, it's always DLD. So I know the name is out there. It's a brand out there. So um, more so, I wanted to be determined, learn, develop than Donald L. Dowdridge. I know my name. So And
I
then
like
again,
that.
now it's between. Well, let's put it like this: there's there's a match going on between DLD and Frederick Douglass. It's like this where it's at right now. But the DLD is basically so that it can last, and it can make an impression. And I believe that determine, learn, develop will make an impression. It will motivate. It will inspire more so than the name Donald L. Dowdridge.
I
So
agree. I agree 100%. And Dale Green is just that type of an individual. I've known him most of my life, certainly my adult life, and been blessed enough to have him share with me. He was excited to learn that I had a radio show and invited me to be a guest on his radio show. We're in this great family called In Touch News Radio. As a matter of fact, Dale wasn't able to do the interview, so his daughter, Tiffany Green
Tiffany,
Berry, came and did the whole interview on just the entrepreneurship and the story of the Black pages and the importance of supporting our Black businesses. And then they were really moved by the power of 31s. 31 ways, 31 days, spend $31 your way with a Black owned business. And so I thank you for shouting him out and to be able to preface what you said and tying that back in. Our talking about him is exactly what's happening with him as well. So his name is a legacy here when it comes to multi levels of media, beginning with radio and television, and now radio again. So that's awesome that
yeah,
we both.
and if I can add this last note about Dale, um, when I approached him and told him that I was going to start doing the motivational moment, which I'm sure you
Yeah,
heard, 60 seconds of motivation. So Dale once again gave me, vital information, and basically it's like, well, Donald, I know you can talk, So you remember, you're going to have to keep this within a minute, 60 seconds. So amazingly, Dale mentioned to me, he said, look, it takes 20 lines. That means 20 written out lines that you
right.
read that will fit right into that groove of 1 minute. And that started, matter of fact, my first show, Motivational Minutes Moment, started back in 2007. So
Okay.
from 2007 to 2019, I have used that same format of 20 lines to fulfill that minute, that 60 seconds. So most definitely, like you say, I mean, Dale Green, he's a milestone. He's a pillar. He is definitely a mentor, and he's somebody that we all in our community,
Absolutely.
um, hold the flame up to. When you say Dale Green, right away a smile comes on your face. Right away the pupils enlarge, and right away you want to light that camera, that lighter, in respects to the likes of Dale Green. So no doubt.
And that's a beautiful thing about having a platform is what we get to do and how we use it. And it's great when we can honor those that have paved a way for us. Because when I think back to Dale Green, I can go back to one of my first radio show. Well, maybe not my first radio show, but somewhere along the line. I'm going to shout out Lawrence Hires. And Lawrence Hires, when we started working together at WTMP, that's where I got my radio show start. As a result of that, he would say to me, we were breaking up the 30 seconds and the 60 seconds, and he gave me this tip. And so he said, Cheryl, if you can do it and say it, by the time you can sing the happy birthday song, you are good to go. And that became my cue for my time slot. And if I couldn't get it done within singing that song, then it was too long
Yeah, yeah,
or too short. And I love the way that these gentlemen paved the way and but shared it and then
yeah,
shared pivotal
yeah, yeah.
information with us about it. But back to you.
Well,
So that's what happened in 1992. So fast forward, because here's how I make the connection with us. DSI Black Pages will be turning 30 years 2022. And one of the things I remember when I first met you, and you were already a friend of the DSI Black Pages founder, Derek Diverger, is both your businesses. And there was another, there were three businesses. It was your business. The other business was Books for Thought, the
Right.
late Felicia Winton's. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And she never, I'm telling you, she never missed a Black Pages showcasing. And that was something we did every single year. So when you think about anniversary, so congratulations because you turned 29 this year.
I turned 29 this year, and as the DSI Black Pages, I will be turning 30 in 2022. And I will let you know that when you go back and you talk about Mr. Diverger, I got a picture. There's a picture that I still have of me speaking at one of the DSI events with him, and
Yes.
I still have a number of the DSI um, Black Pages, original ones, and I do have the what is called the DLD Traveling Black History Museum, and in that museum there are a few issues of the
I
DSI
love it.
newspaper, or not newspaper, but
The
uh,
publication.
publication. So, and you know, when you speak about um, just history. You know, I some say I'm a hoarder, but I mean, I don't know if you remember the 411 magazine that came out.
Oh, yes.
I
My
still got
goodness,
issues
yes.
of that. Would you believe? You know, so when you talk about those people back then, and not to say that they're gone, but you know, they trailblaze and they set the path for people like you and Daryl Johnson, and you know, people that are in the magazine business, if you will. You know, so um, and we're riding on the coattails of such great people that you know that we recognize here in the Tampa Bay community, and that we
Yes.
recognize as a whole. And not only that, they got that black power.
Well, Black Power,
I see the
yes.
double
And
black
that,
power
and
you
that,
brought up.
listen, we're not hoarders because I certainly have all of the additions. I have the DSI wall. When I renovated my office, I took the pictures down. But thanks to Ursula Odom, we're getting ready to put it together and we are building a legacy wall. And this is what I love about us partnering and collaborating with each other and using our business expertise and our businesses and spending our money with our Black owned businesses.
Yeah, yeah,
And a lot of that is going to come up in next month as we celebrate Juneteenth. This will probably be one of the biggest years in Black events and promoters and businesses and organizations celebrating together
yeah, yeah.
with government entities and major corporations and sharing the importance of Black Lives Matter and Black
Right,
businesses matter.
right.
But I said that to say, every book I ever purchased from Books for Thought with Felicia Winton's, and usually my kids and I went there every Saturday. Saturday mornings, we went to New Mount Zion for our Saving Our Children program. And after that, they always look forward. We would go visit seniors, we would go to nursing homes, we would go to hospitals. And then the treat was Books for Thought. And
Mm,
they got to purchase a book of their choice. And we pretty much did that every Saturday for years.
yeah.
So I have all those books. It's not, we're not hoarding. It's just a part of our library. That's all.
It's part of our library. It's part of our history. You know.
So
Um,
back to you. Back to you. So now we have this motivational guru, scholar, author, actor, talk show host, co-hosting with me. You were doing Wednesday nights because I remember joining. My son Rocky was in town from LA, and we
yeah,
both were we
yeah,
both were guest appearances on your show. You did Wednesday nights. I do Wednesday day. So
yeah.
talk to us about the A's, the author, the actor.
Well, I tell you what, you know, um, I was speaking before a group yesterday, and one of the things that I was hammering out is, and these are young students and what have you, and I asked them, did they know what their talents were? Did they know what their gifts were? quite naturally at that young age, they're like, no, I don't know, I don't know. But I went on and started hammering in the fact that your talents and your gifts are hidden right there inside of you. It's just like a seashell. It's like an oyster. When you pry open that oyster, there's pearls that's inside of it, but you got to get the right one to get those pearls. So, and with them, I'm stressing the fact that you got to dig deep within yourself. And once you dig inside yourself, you'll start to discover it's not on the outside, it's internally hidden within you, but you got to go in, not out, to find those talents. And with myself, coming up out of how I came up out of, it was just a matter of me taking a moment just to study me and see what I have to offer. Now, I know that, for instance, my dad, um, I would say that well, he had three great qualities that I noticed about him.
Okay.
And these three great qualities that I took from him, everything else, but I took these. One was he was a sharp dresser. The
Okay.
other was, he loved to dance and he loved to sing. There were a few more, but these three right here, sharp dancer, loved to sing and dance. Well, I kept those, you know, and those are his talents that were passed down to me, which I pass on as you go. But in reference to being the speaker and the actor,
Actor,
um,
author.
author and whatnot. And I got to back up. I got to back up because I really didn't meet my dad until I was 12. So I got to go way back to the Ed Sullivan Show.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I can't tell you how many people, and you probably have done this too, where you probably seen something on TV and you said, "That's what I want to be." Well, when Ed Sullivan introduced James Brown. And James
Mm.
Brown walked down that walkway and he got to the mic and he said, "Ow, I feel good." I said, "Man, that's what I want to be." At 7 years old, I wanted to be that. I wanted to be the actor, but I had no way of knowing besides, being who I was in school and always getting in trouble that I always performed in school.
Oh,
But
you were
moving
acting. You were
forward,
acting then. You were
huh?
acting up.
Yeah, I was acting up. But moving on, it really didn't become as serious as it became. And believe it or not, until the day of me ETAing from the military. That means the day that I was discharged from the military and I was on that bus leaving Fort Dix going to Baltimore and I fell asleep. And in my sleep, I had a dream. All right. No, this is not Martin Luther King, but I had a dream. And the dream was, believe it or not, 6 billboards around town. But there was nothing on the billboards. They were just 6 blank billboards. That was 1983. Cheryl, 1997, I believe it was, that dream came to fruition here in Tampa Bay. So I had 7 billboards all around the city at different times with positive messages. And if I knew I was going to speak on that, I would have brought I still have a photo frame of one of my billboards that I had on Florida Avenue and come on, Columbus Drive, Florida and
Okay.
Columbus, where that grocery store sits on the corner. All right. I had that, and the billboard said, respect. Respect yourself and respect others. That was one of the first billboards that I had up around the city. But in reference to what really kicked it off is when my son came and invited me to speak in his 5th grade at, man, I'm having a blank, but at his 5th grade class over on 15th and Osborne. Um, so I went there and I spoke and had no idea that that was the setup. When Mr. Horn came and he said, "Mr. Dowdridge, I have to make a run. You got the class?" He said,
Oh
"Now, I don't
wow.
know. Can you handle it?" I said, "Please." And for that whole 45 minutes of class time, I had those kids, you know, I mean, I had their psyche. They would not turn me loose. Well, when I got home that day, which was a Friday, my intentions were to go back to work Saturday at the post office. Well, believe it or not, when I got home that evening, there were five calls. Well, Mr. Yeah, there were five calls from five different schools here in Tampa that Mr. Horn had reached out to inform them of myself. And before I knew it, I mean, I got to work, and I would say within 2 months, I had came up with uh, empowerment cards. I started writing my first book. I had wrote some poetry, and the poetry that I wrote. What I used to do, I used to go out to all the stores, the black stores in the community here in Tampa, and I would ask them, could I put my poetry up on their walls? And they said, sure, but we don't have frames. Well, what I did back then, I would go buy a box of frames. Now imagine back then I can get 12 frames in a box for maybe $20. Those
Okay.
same frames today, you will wind up paying for one frame, you paying $5 for one frame. All right, that's the cheap. They call it the cheap frames. So
Well, I
I
don't know. Is that one of the frames behind you?
no, those frames behind me are the real deal. Okay, I earned those frames. I didn't buy those frames. I earned those. But every month or every 2 weeks, I would go out to these stores and I would change up the poetry. And I don't know if you remember, we had WTMP had had a Black History Month event at Busch Gardens.
Mhm.
The guest was Les Brown. They had a musical artist there. I mean, everybody turned out for this. So anyway, I had wrote a poem in reference to that event. And the event, it was basically centering around black businesses here in Tampa. So a lot of the black businesses were mixed in to that poem. So everybody got
Right.
a shout out on that poem. And believe it or not, um, I would say as recent as last year or before COVID hit, I ran into an individual who had their business back then, and they say they still have that poem. So it
Awesome.
was recognizing the black businesses here in Tampa. So it just started growing from there. You know what I mean? It was the
So
landmark.
what was the title?
What was the title of the poem? You would ask me that, wouldn't you? But I
No,
can't
no. What
remember.
was the title of your first book?
Oh, the title of the first book was "Truth in the Poem." Okay,
Okay.
it was a book of poetry, 30 poems that I had written. I recall one of them was the name of the poem was Black History, and that was a Black History poem that I would read around town during the Black History Month. Um, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. The child it was that was in reference to myself and coming through what I went through in the foster homes. There was one in tribute to the King that was dedicated to Dr. King. Um,
Awesome.
yes, there was another one entitled Arsenio Hall. You remember the old Arsenio Hall show? Because I sent that to, I wrote that poem and I sent it to Arsenio Hall. And believe it or not, we had an ongoing conversation that lasted about a year, him and I. And he would call me or he would send me letters. He sent me a picture that he signed to Donald D. Continue to move forward. And we were on the crust, believe it or not, we were on the crust of him inviting me to be on his show.
Oh my.
Yeah, when it got canceled. Um, so I mean, a lot of my works that I wrote a poem for Magic Johnson once he came out with AIDS. I wrote a poem for him. Um, David Dinkins, who was the first black mayor of New York, I wrote a poem for him.
Okay.
When 9/11 hit, I wrote a poem for that affair, and I sent like 50, 100 copies. I sent to Iraq. Um, so, I mean, I wrote poems for Michael Jackson, James Brown, I mean, so some of those poems wounded up in that first book, Truth.
Are you still writing poems today?
Well, most of my poems, believe it or not, when I write them. When they come, I hit them. I put them up on Facebook. So there's a lot of meaningful literature that I write, and I write it up on Facebook. Um, and then what I'll do, I'll just copy it into my Word file so I can save them, and of course get them copyrighted at the Office of Copyright. So just in case somebody eyeing my work, it won't wind up in their pockets. But
Well, it's good that you do that because as you're talking to students, and even today, you talk about the gentleman, I believe Mr. Homer, that helped you when you were teaching your son's class. Now, fast forward to today, you are still in Hillsborough County Public Schools, inspiring and motivating you. So, to Dale Green's point, let your business outlive your name. Those kids will remember you.
oh yeah, yeah. And as a matter of fact, funny you say that. I did. Matter of fact, this issue here, I gave you a copy. It's What's Up
Yes,
Baltimore.
yes, I
Okay.
have it right here. I was looking at it last night.
Yes, and one of the editors, Mr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. Well, anyway, 2 months ago when the last issue came out, which I'm in, so we did a Zoom broadcast, and there was a young man on there, and believe it or not, we were talking, and the young man interrupted his mother. Now the young man is 25 years old, but he interrupted his mother, and he said, "Ma, ma, I know that guy. I know that guy." Now, take it for granted now. They're in Baltimore. I'm in Tampa. I've been back in Tampa since '06. The young man says, "Mom, I know this man." And she said, "What are you talking about? Where do you know him from?" "Ma, I know him. As a matter of fact, I was in the seventh grade and he came to our school in Suitland, Maryland. And he came in and he spoke to us. And at the time, the guy says, I didn't want to be bothered with him, so I was cutting up. They pulled me out the class, and they talked to me. I came back, I sat there and I listened, and that man, he really inspired me. That's that man, Donald Dowdridge. I remember him. So um, like you say, I inspire you, I move forth, but you never know who you inspire and who you're motivating and who life you're touching. So it's definitely in 29 years, it's been a blessing. And this year marked 21 years that I've been with the Hillsborough County Schools.
That is fantastic. It's what you're doing is working. Give God all the praise. Listen, for those of you that are tuning in, you can see, let me stand up a little bit. You can see my shirt. This is the DLD logo. And I really like the way you incorporated the old logo from back in the 90s to your logo today for DLD. When we come back after our commercial break, we are going to, there it is, DLD wear.
This is the original. So
And we'll talk about what this man, the mogul, and the mission is doing after a break. See you in a moment.
see you in a moment.
We are back. Thank you so much for tuning in to Let's Talk Business with Cheryl J. Kuso. I'm here with my co-host guest, DLD, Donald L. Dowdridge, and I was just talking about. So we've talked about you, the man. We've talked about this business mogul you are, and you're still continuing to add more products and or services to your DLD brand. We've talked about you as the author, and you've got a number of books out there as well. And so we want to pivot to how you became a fashion guru.
Well, I really wouldn't say that I'm a fashion guru.
Go with the bit.
As I mentioned earlier, that my dad, he loved to dress. I mean, this man, I mean, he dressed to the hilt. The young kids nowadays, they would say he was dripping. Um, and myself, even to this day, I do love to dress, and I love to be stylish, in my dress. And I know that I got that from him. And as a matter of fact, if I could add, a lot of our material that we buy to make our clothing, believe it or not, a lot of it comes from the clothing district in Manhattan.
Okay.
And yeah, and my dad, he worked in the clothing district in Manhattan. As a matter of fact, he rose to become a manager there. And I mean, it seemed like every night he would come home from work, he was bringing material home, and he would have his girlfriend, sometimes have her make clothes for him. And I mean, we're
Awesome.
talking in the era when we were wearing dashikis. And I mean, he had maybe just a half of a closet of just, um, I mean, out of this world designed dashikis. And this comes from the material. And this man would bring home silk. I mean, 100% silk material. And sometimes he would have his suits tailor made out of,
Nice.
you know, um, out of this material. So moving forth, um, back in 1996, I had this vision, of T-shirts, and back then, you see and even now, you see people out there on the corner selling T-shirts and what have you. I would walk through the mall and I would see different designs of T-shirts, and I said, well, wait a minute, why would I buy somebody else's T-shirts when I can put out a positive message, with T-shirts? So what I showed you earlier, and I'll show you again. This is just one of the um,
We
original
see it.
designs,
Got it.
all right, from back in the days. Okay, one of the first ones. And if you notice on the bottom there, oh, sorry about that. On the bottom, it says in small letters DLD. Okay, this was another one of the designs determined to learn and develop from the original stock. And you'll see Posware.
Right.
Um, yeah, Posware on there. And then you turn it over. It says, if I'm determined to give less, then less is what I'm determined to get. And then we have attitude. This was another one of the shirts.
Ooh.
Attitude. All right. My mind is full of attitude of success. So these were the originals. And they were very
That
limited.
sounds like the title of a book.
Yes, these were very limited colors, meaning that they came in black, beige, and white, and that was it. Well, if I can move to the side here, you
I
see
see.
this here is the new line of DLD t-shirts, and I had to change the name from Posware because at the back in the days, '96, my mission, which was to trademark the T-shirt. I mean the name DL. I mean
Correct.
Poswell. Well, this year when the idea struck about the T-shirts, I go online and I noticed that another company stepped up and trademarked the Poswell. So I cannot use legally. I cannot use Posware any longer. So what I've done, I've moved on and changed the name, which is more appropriate to DLD wear. It
Yes,
falls
I
right in.
like that.
Yeah, it falls right in line, and I checked it out. There's no other merchant floating with the DLD wear. There is some DLD out there, but it's not DLD wear. So these are the five new shirts that I came up with, and you're wearing one of them in that beautiful pink that you're wearing. Yes, and the pink comes in two different pinks. You have the light pink, and on the corner here where it says ladies, this is the dark pink. All right. And basically it's ladies,
Oh
legendary.
yeah, I see it. I see it now up on the monitor. So that's the
Yeah,
back of my shirt. The acronym for ladies:
right.
legendary, ambitious, dynamic, intelligent, enthusiastic, and steadfast.
There you go. Now, if you look on the far right as you're looking, you'll see gentlemen. So when I had the ladies made, I said, wait a minute, I
Awesome.
got to have something for the gentleman as well. So the gentleman is genuine, educated, noble, trusting, legendary, empathetic, mindful, eloquent, and um,
Notable.
noble. Okay, and
Awesome.
yes, and then you see the green one, which is proud and strong, and basically that came about because of the current climate that we're in. The George Floyd, God bless his soul, on George Floyd, and with the Black Lives Matters, and just basically telling us as Black African Americans, however you want to call us, to stay strong. Be
Yeah.
proud of who you are, and don't let anyone take your proudness from you. And then we have, which is a repeat from the original, I'm about respect, understanding, growth, knowledge, self-esteem, education, endurance. And then it asks that question on the bottom. This is what I'm about. Now, what are you about? And this is taken from the original, which you see here. And last but not least, taken from my 13th award-winning book, The Power of Being a Winner. I have the power of being a winner. I was
Nice.
born to be a winner. So these are five T-shirts, and if I can let you know how this concept came to life,
Well,
we
let us know how
went
the concept came to life, but I also don't want you to miss telling us, just like I got my shirt, how our radio listening audience and others can get their copy, whether it's for them, individuals, is there a group discount? So go ahead.
Thank you. Well, basically, the T-shirts they are $25, and there is a group discount. Thanks for mentioning that. If you purchase a certain amount, like maybe three or more, okay, you will get that discount on at that point. Also, um, you can purchase the shirts via my website, which is a brand new interactive website. So basically, when you go to the website, which is www.dldenterprises, you can go to the e-commerce, which is on the page that allows you to look at all the shirts in action. And you can also look at the books as well that are up there. And you can purchase right there offline in the e-commerce section of the website. You can also call me direct. If you're here in the Hillsborough County, you can call me direct at my number, 813-394-5875. And we will assure that you get the shirts live in living color from yours truly. I will deliver as Donald
Oh,
Dowdridge, not Frederick Douglass. Because I had somebody say, no, I want you to come as Frederick Douglass.
oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you could get that's another way, I do PayPal, I do the Square, and even Cash App for,
And we will attach your links to our thank you post, and we will send our viewers straight to your website. I've not seen your newest website, so I'm
yes,
looking to see what this new interactive feature you
yes,
have there. But as I begin at the beginning of the show, Donald, and we had this conversation pre-show talking about May being Mental Health Awareness Month, We you didn't get to talk a little bit about, but I know you came from that gang life. I know you've endured a lot. I know by the time you were in high school, you were you were a handful. And so, but for people, and just fast forward to the pandemic, you are a COVID-19 survivor at that right when it was just so difficult to even be treated. So when we talk about mental health and look at this total spectrum that you've covered, I mean, I see this pendulum swinging over the last 40 years. Then tell us how your positive thoughts were able to help you and how these messages, like I love the back of my shirt. My theme when COVID-19 happened and my signature tagline was stay well, stay safe, stay strong, and stay steadfast in your faith. I
You
should put
know,
that on a t-shirt.
yeah, when you talk about mental health, and you mix it into the COVID situation, believe it or not, when I was in the hospital, um, I did not pray the regular prayer. And the regular prayer is, Lord, I'm not ready to die. Please don't let me die. That was not my prayer.
I
My
didn't know that was a regular prayer.
Yeah, my prayer. Well, I mean, you got some people who are afraid to die. All right, so it's going to happen anyway. So my prayer, believe it or not, was, well, Lord, as I look back on these 64 years that you have given me, and I had just turned 64 on November the 28th. So we're talking maybe 3 weeks later, I'm in the hospital in December. So I'm praying, Lord, you're giving me so much in 64 years. You have brought me so many, I mean, so far. You allow me to enhance people's lives, and you allow me to use me and my issues and my pain and my agony and my defeats and failures to inspire others. And I just went there. I said, well, Lord, if this is my time and I must leave, well, Lord, I'm ready. So
Oh,
it's funny now because after I said amen and went to roll over to go back to sleep, an angel came to me and said, look, let me tell you something. We'll let you know when it's time. But right now, we need you to get up out this bed and get back out there and do the work that, we commission you to do.
all
Okay.
right.
So, and that was my goal. So when the nurse came in and she saw me in the room shadow boxing, after they had, this is like a day later after they gave me the COVID convalescent, which is antibodies against COVID. That next day, I was up in my room shadow boxing. And the nurse
Love it.
came and she walked in and she said, Mr. Dowdridge, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be in the bed. I said, well, ma'am, no disrespect, but if I lay in that bed, you're going to roll me down to the morgue. I'm up because I got stuff to do. As a matter of fact, what time am I supposed to leave here? You know what I mean? But even though it was another couple of days, when you talk about, at least for myself, I'm not ashamed to say that I've spent many a days in my past laying on the couch. And when I say laying on the couch, I'm talking about laying on the couch talking to a psychiatrist. One of my first psychiatrists that I remember was once I got out of reformatory school after 3 years there. My psychiatrist was Dr. Chu. He was a Korean young man, you know what I mean? Probably about 5 feet 5. And me at 15, when I would go into, and I had to go to the Empire State Building, in Manhattan every Wednesday at 4:30. I had to go in and I had to sit and spend an hour with this man. And he was an Asian. And you know what's happening with Asians nowadays. So,
Donald, before how did you leap there just a tad bit too quickly? When did you know you needed to have professional help?
well, it wasn't until later on that, when I became an adult, that, I summons to get some help because
Okay.
I had been through so much torture, so much pain, and so much abuse that, believe it or not, I got to the point that I was abusing myself. So there was no one abusing me But all that abuse had played on my psyche so much that I turned around. Even though these people who abused me were no longer in the picture, I took it on to abuse myself.
Mm,
So
okay.
that meant that there was times that I would stand in the mirror and tell myself how ugly I am. I'm not worthy. I hate you. And I would do like physical harm to myself. Um, it's just a mere fact of all the mental stress and the physical stress that was put upon me, and this takes place with everybody, who goes through something similar. They wound up believing in the end that it's their fault. They can't succeed. They can't keep a job. Nobody loves me. I can't keep a valid relationship. I don't know how to talk to people. So what happens is, when you got that type of stress upon you, you withdraw from society. You withdraw from yourself. And then you look to find other things to take the place of, say, humans.
Right.
And when I say humans, I'm talking in reference to people like us, um, who probably can be a helping hand to you, but then you start relying on drugs and alcohol, and then you start to torture yourself. And then you just, you start treating yourself like a rag dog where anybody can do anything to you, abuse you, sexually abuse you, mutilate you, use foul language against you. And when you cheer that on, you welcome that because you feel like you're less than. So coming through, and believe it or not, even though I would say 1989, I got on my knees December 1989, and I said to God, I said, look, if I gotta die, I no longer want to be a problem. Mold me so I can be a solution.
Okay.
And whatever it means to be a solution, that's what I want to be. And it didn't solve my issues overnight because I said that prayer. It was a growing process, a long process that, I had to search within me to find alternative routes, alternative paths, alternative avenues that would help me to remove myself from this torture that was going on. And one of the first things I started doing, believe it or not, I started studying myself, and I looked at my genes, GENE, my chemical makeup. And as a matter of fact, when I got in the military, my first tour overseas, I had the privilege of going to school. So I enrolled in a sociology class. I
Okay.
enrolled in that sociology class because I wanted to learn more about me. When I mentioned earlier about my dad, he was not the perfect role model for me. He did not, and I say that because he was not educated. I mean, even though he was doing good and a manager on a job, but he did not have that he only had an eighth grade education. Um, he was more so of, I mean, a party type, a player, so and when he got me out of the foster home, I mean, he tortured me even more. I
Oh
mean,
my
I
goodness.
have marks on my body to this day that he put there. um, I mean, even now there's times that I have to put cream or medicated cream in the back of my head where, I mean, let's keep it real. I mean, he stabbed me in the back of my head 5 times with a fork, and I'm still suffering from that. And I recall asking my great grandmother, I'm like, if he's my dad, why is he abusing me like this? You know.
Mm,
So again, it's just a matter of me taking this class because I wanted to find out more about me. What I wanted to find out what makes me tick. I wanted to be more of a kind of more of a person that always laughed and act silly and what have you. Because a lot of times, as you know, people who has a way of uh, fending off questions, children in school who have ways of fending off when they're called on. Well, there's a hidden agenda there. They're hiding
correct.
something. something that, when you ask a child to read and that child starts cutting up and acting, well, it's because that child can't read. When you ask that child to take on a mission, well, there's a possibility that child don't want to take on that mission because their head, their mind, their brain is preoccupied with the abuse that's going on at home when a child acts up, and even adults. When adults go into different moods, you have to study why they go into these moods to act the way they act, why they
Well,
come
I
together.
actually like the first step that you took, and
Yeah,
that was you prayed and asked God to give you the plan and the trajectory for your life. And
yeah,
that's what was most important. And you took that step. And listen, your story can empower so many others. Continue to tell that story to others. Continue to write your poetry. Continue to produce these shirts with such positive images and as well messages. And that's part of determined to learn and develop. Thank you, Dale Green and his cohort.
yes, yes,
On this
yes,
show, we have had 4 experts to come on, licensed psychologists, top of the game ladies in their field, all females, by the way. And I want to take this opportunity to shout out Dr. Kimberly Kinzer of Kinsler Psychology, Dr. Shanae Simmons, Community Victor Family Services. And then we had Deatra Martin, Protect Your Peace. And we had Tiffany Ellis to come on with Pods and Perennials. And another one from Homegirl Therapist, Shantae Jackson. Homegirl Therapist, she keeps it real. She reminds me of you, Donald. She
mm,
just keeps it real. And for you sharing with us, letting us all know, even my co host, Dr. David, said, listen, we have to talk to someone. And each one of those therapists said that long before you get to the professional. You got to start having this conversation with
yeah,
someone.
yeah,
So we were talking about mental health. The show was about mental health and you sharing some motivational tidbits and messages for us. But other things happen. I was given a challenge by Pamela Robinson, founder, attorney, and founder of Aaron House. And she's got a prominent video that we're going to share. But just recently, with all of the police killings and the victims and their families of what they've been going through, I just learned from a movie. It's a short film that I recently saw, and it was two distinct strangers. I mean, really. And the director was Trayvon Free. He and as well Martin Desmond Rowe did this Oscar-winning short film about two distant strangers. And as a result, the reason they did it was because they participated in a lot of the riots that were going on around the world and being a part of Black Lives Matter. And he said, I've got to do something. I've got to share what I can do, use my skills and expertise, like what you're doing with your motivational moments, and decided to create this short film. And I empower people to go and take a look at it. It's on Netflix, so you can order it up on Netflix. But what happened was when we talk about mental health, my husband has a relative that suffered from mental health. And in 2014, police officers were called to take her away. And they said, had this hammer type object in her hand. And when she went to raise it, the police officer shot and killed her.
mm,
Shot and killed her.
wow,
Well, kudos to Trayvon Free and Martin Rowe and all those that are going to come late, that will come later. At the end of his movie, Two Distinct Strangers, he listed the names of so many of people of color who were killed as a result of law enforcement. And you'll see her name up on the screen, as well as names like Trayvon Martin, as well as names like Aubrey. And then it ends with George Floyd. It's worth checking out. And in memory of Michelle Cusseau, every year her foundation puts on a toy drive in December, letting people know the importance of mental health awareness. Check the film out. We'll have the link at our thank you post. But let me take this opportunity, Donald, to say thank you for always being a collaborator with me. You've been at every Black Pages, even before I took over the publication. You've been there. Continue to do what you're doing, because I want to end the show. And a special thank you to all of you that are listening to the show, whether you're listening to it live or you're catching the replay. We appreciate you and we thank you. And so, what I'd like to do is in our segment with Pamela Robinson, founder and president of Aaron House. She gave us a challenge in the month of May. And when you are a mental health worker, you're supporting a mental health worker, you're dealing with mental health patients, simply put, just be kind. Just be kind. And Ricky, if you cue that video up, we'll go ahead and let that play. But all of our thank you posts, in our thank you posts, all of these links that we're talking about to Aaron House, to the movie Two Distinct Strangers, to DLD, where you can purchase. And I ask you, purchase the shirts, wear them all next month as we celebrate Juneteenth and the importance of Juneteenth. Ricky, you ready to cue it up? Pamela Robinson, Aaron House.
Hello everyone, I'm Pamela Robinson, founder and CEO of Aaron's House. Aaron's House provides support to caregivers of people with mental illnesses. We provide support in various ways. We have peer-to-peer support groups. We provide respite, education, as well as compassion. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we encourage each and every one of you to please take care of your mental health. Mental health is just as important as physical health. If you feel that something is not quite right with you, if something is off or your thinking is off, talk to a friend or a relative. You yourself know more than anyone when things are not quite right, so it's perfectly okay to seek professional help. In honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, we implore you to be kind to a caregiver. If you know of a caregiver that's taking care of someone with a mental illness, be nice to them. Offer to do groceries. Offer to run errands for them. Send them flowers or a card or a simple telephone call, just checking to see how you're doing. Please remember that we're still in the midst of a pandemic and to follow the CDC guidelines. But please take the Aaron's House Challenge and be kind to a caregiver. Thank you and be safe.
There you have it. Be kind to one another. Thank you, In Touch News. Thank you to our Facebook listening family, all of our subscribers. We appreciate you. But again, thank you, Pamela Robinson of Aaron's House. Be kind to a caregiver. Be kind to a patient. Do something special for them. This show is a wrap.
Record.